Younes, public speaking, persuasive speech number 1. Picture this. You are sound asleep in your bed. Your family just a few rooms down, there to comfort you if you should need it. Around 3 in the morning, you wake with a start. You hear cussing, crying, and things breaking. Although this is coming from your neighbor's house, it is enough to wake you nearly every night, so that by tonight, you're so used to it that you just turn over and go back to sleep. Too scared to imagine it, and too scared to do anything about it. Unfortunately, child abuse is very common in our country. 906,000 children are being abused annually. This number is why I'm going to persuade you to prevent this crime. I will persuade you by teaching you about the 4 types of abuse, telling you ways to prevent it, and giving you astonishing facts that will make you change your mind. Before one can be able to prevent child abuse, one must be able to identify it. There are 4 types: sexual, physical, emotional, and neglect. Sexual abuse is the forcing of unwanted sexual activity by one person on another as the use of threats. There are 3 ways to sexually abuse a child: touching, non-touching, and exploitation. Touching offenses are when the child is touched unwillingly in an inappropriate area. Non-touching offenses would include showing the children pornography or purposely exposing yourself or the child. And exploitation offenses would include using the child for prostitution or other awful ideas. Sexual abuse can hurt not only the child's body, but can also harm them emotionally. There are three easy ways to identify sexual abuse: is obvious fear of a person, unreasonable fear of a physical exam, or bedwetting. Physical abuse tends to be acknowledged more commonly than sexual abuse. Physical child abuse is physical injury inflicted upon the child with cruel and/or malicious intent. Physical abuse can be a result of punching, beating, kicking, biting, burning, and shaking, or otherwise harming a child physically, as defined by medicinenet.com. Physical abuse tends to be the easiest to identify, due to the marks, bruises, and cuts left behind. Children who are physically abused oftentimes try to cover their marks with clothing, or make lies to hide what the abuser is really doing. They do this in the fear of the abuser getting mad if someone else were to find out. Children often fall and get hurt, but noticing age-appropriate injuries can save one's life. Emotional abuse, also referred to as verbal abuse, is simply when one threatens or humiliates a child by name-calling, insulting, or messing with personal belongings. Emotional abuse is the hardest to identify because there are no physical marks left behind. Children who are emotionally abused often are shy, constantly apologizing, and may have other abnormal personality changes. Being emotionally abused, children may grow up to believe they are unworthy or unloved, and this can become fatal. 5 common ways a child can be physically abused are rejecting, corrupting, terrorizing, ignoring, and isolating. Last of the 4 types of abuse is neglect. Neglect is the most common type of abuse. There are 4 ways to neglect a child: physically, educationally, emotionally, and medically. Physically neglecting a child would include not providing them with shelter, food, clothing, and proper supervision. Educational neglect is when the child is taken out of a school before the required age limit by force of their parents or guardians. And emotional neglect happens when the parents don't show their love to the child. And as the child grows up, this may become fatal. In fact, emotional neglect is some of the top causes for suicide. Medically neglecting a child is not taking the child to the doctor when they are ill, suffering from a severe injury, or in need of a health checkup. Now that you are aware of the 4 types of abuse, I'm going to teach you 6 simple ways to prevent child abuse. Number 1. Financially support a child welfare agency. 2. Volunteer at a child welfare agency. 3. Support on behalf of the children. Go out and speak to your community and teach them about child abuse. 4. Know and be able to identify the 4 types of abuse. 5. Help a family in need by calling 911 or simply talking to the abuser. And finally, help an at-risk child by removing the child from the environment and talking to him or her. talking to their abuser, or even calling the police. These are only 6 simple ways to save a life, and there are many more ways out there. A common reason people don't get involved is because that they are scared that the abuser will come after them, will hurt the victim even more, or that they will get involved in court cases. Oftentimes, people don't realize the reality and danger of child abuse. Dr. Younes gives an astonishing number of 50,000 cases reported to child services a year. Although many cases are being reported, there are 4 deaths daily from child abuse or neglect. 1 out of every 4 of these are children under the age of 4. In fact, the most common age of child abuse is between the ages of 0 and 4. According to the World Health Organization, worldwide 155,000 children are dying, or younger than 15 years, die annually as a result of abuse. 80% of this being 80% of these cases are due to biological parents, and only 15% are step-parents, and the other 5% are usually close friends. Child abuse is increasing and needs to be stopped. The facts show how serious abuse is, and hopefully it opens the eyes of others. It is our responsibility to keep children safe. My opinion against child abuse is very strong, and I believe it is my responsibility to keep the children I know away from abuse. All it takes is dialing a 3-digit number. Now that I have identified the 4 types of abuse, have taught you 6 simple ways to prevent it, and have opened your eyes to the world of abuse out there, it is your turn to get up and go help. Child abuse is happening all around the world. Never believe it is impossible. And next time you wake up in the middle of the night and hear crying, cussing, and things breaking, you will get up and you will do something about it.